I've talked to you in the past about what people call negativity bias. Think about that term for a second, how it might apply to you or your relationships. A story attributed to the great genius Albert Einstein. Maybe it illustrates this point well. And whether it happened or not is irrelevant to us because this isn't about history, it's about wisdom. Einstein allegedly stood in front of his class with a piece of chalk at the chalkboard and he wrote the 9 times table. 9 times 1 equals 9, 9 times 2 equals 18, etc. And as soon as he got to 9 times 10, he wrote is 91 equals 91. There was an outbreak of rancor behind him. All the students raising their hands, Mr. Einstein, Professor Einstein, 9 times 10 does not equal 91. You made a mistake. And Einstein, I can imagine, turned around and looked at his students and said to them, just notice something. 9 times out of 10, I got things right. None of you said a word, a word of praise, of acknowledgement, of compliment. But the first time I made one error, 1 out of 10, you were all over me with criticism. So think about that for a second. And in case you haven't done it already, think about you, yourself, your character, how that plays out in your relationships. I remember when I was parenting young kids, somebody said to us, instead of telling your kid what they keep doing wrong, compliment them on the things that they do right. Let them see how you admire who they are, not just pointing out the mistake they made. Then they come from a place of strength in addressing the issues that they need to change. I think it's true in marriage as well. I think sometimes we harp on each other instead of realizing the value that comes of showing love and praise, directing it at each other. It applies to our relationships all around in work, with our grandkids, with our grandparents, with our kids, with our siblings, with our spouses, with friends. It's very easy to resort to what you might say is just human nature. And you're right, it is human nature to jump to the negativity. It's to see the fault. It's in our public figures, people in our society, in our community, as soon as they make a mistake, to pounce on it. But let me tell you something else. Character, which is what we're concerned with, presumably, not just human nature, is that place, that space where we rise above what is otherwise just human nature. So it might not be good enough to say, well, that's human nature. Better, from a character perspective, is those are the moments in which I check in my human nature, I notice it, and I make a different decision. I change the patterns of my behavior, and I believe, therefore, change the patterns of my thought and my character and my relationship. There are many things that we do that are just human nature, but imagine if we did all of them, the kind of society we'd live in.